Okay, I'm going to give you guys a rundown on my Steelman wireless ChassisEAR kit, model number 60635. Just in case anyone's curious about these or might be wanting to pick one of these kits up one day. I'll first mention that this is the older version. There's a newer kit available, but the only differences that I've been able to find about them detail-wise is the new kit is black. Other than that, I don't know what the differences might be. It probably doesn't matter anyways, because I'm sure you just buy the new version. Regardless, I've had this kit for about 5 years now. I've been pretty happy with it. It does have some issues, and I'll go over a couple of those in a moment. But first, I'll give you an idea of what the plan is. I'm going to move on outside. I'm going to give you the rundown of what's included in the kit. I've had an issue with my vehicle for a little while now. I got a bit of a clunk and a rattle coming from the front end. So I'm going to hook everything up to that, and we're going to see if we can confirm what I suspect the problem is. And I figured I'd take you guys along with me for the ride so you can see this thing in action. Now, getting back to the issues I've had, the number one main issue is the connection between the transmitters and the receiver. Sometimes it loses the connection. That can be a bit of a pain in the butt. Sometimes you can just turn the receiver off and on and it reestablishes the connection. Great. But sometimes you have to actually get out of the vehicle, turn the transmitter off and on to reestablish the connection. Now that can be a pain in the butt. If you're on a road test, you got to stop, open the hood, turn the transmitter off and on, shut everything down again and start all over. That can be very irritating. But I also got to mention, it doesn't happen that often, but it happens enough for me to want to make mention of it. So we'll leave it at that for now. I'll get everything packed up and moved outside, and we'll get on with hooking things up and going for the test and seeing this thing in action. Okay, everybody. As you can see, I've got my custom display table set up here inside the engine bay. I figured before we go ahead and hook things up and go for the test drive, I'd show you what comes in the kit, just in case anyone might be interested in picking one of these things up one day. The original kit comes with 4 of the transmitters, the receiver. You can see I've got the 2 additional transmitters I picked up separately. You take the receiver out. Inside you've got the bag. Here I keep the clamps which hook up to the transmitters. I've got 2 additional clamps here. Extra clamps did come with the additional transmitters I picked up. The original kit comes with these very cheap wired earbuds. I found them very uncomfortable and the sound quality was pretty crappy, but they work. I ended up picking up a cheap set of wired earbuds on Amazon. Definitely more comfortable, and the sound quality is quite a bit better than the ones that came in the kit. The receiver actually has a built-in speaker, so you don't need wired earbuds. You can just use a speaker, but if you're in a loud environment driving around, it is nice to have the wired earbuds. They do help a lot. So I guess we can leave it at that for now, and we'll get moving on to hooking things up and going for the test drive. Okay, everybody. Before we go ahead and hook everything up and run the test, I'll give you a quick rundown of what's going on and what we're looking at. This is my 2007 Jeep Liberty with a 3.7 liter. I happen to know that the rack and pinion bushings are worn out. For sure, on the driver's side, you can see the bushing all squished out here. We know this one is done. Passenger side actually looks like it's in pretty good shape from here, but when we run the test, we'll be able to confirm if that one's rattling around and clunking like I suspect the driver's side is. But to begin, we'll hook up the Steelman clamps. First, we'll go on to the passenger side. Nice and snug. We'll get the cable up and out of the way for now. The second clamp on the driver's side. Nice and snug. Cable up and out of the way. Next, we'll move on to hooking up the transmitters. Okay, before we go ahead and plug the transmitters into the cables, which we've already got connected to the rack and pinion bolts, I'm going to go over something here that's bothered me a little bit since I first got this kit. Not a big deal, but it's been an issue for me. I noticed that on all the transmitters, the female RCA plugs and the cable RCA plugs, the male side, when you plug them in, they're really not very sturdy. It rolls very easy, it wobbles around quite a bit, and it comes off much too easy. It really does not give you a very good sense of security when you're using these. So all I've been doing is, if you look on the outside of these rings, on the males, it's not a solid ring. There's a little separation point there. If you can't see it, you just run your nail across it, you'll find it eventually. If you look closely here, what I do is I just push that one side in a little bit, not too much. You don't want to overdo it. And you just clamp it down a little bit from the outside. Then when you do plug it in, it does hold better. It doesn't turn as much, it doesn't wobble as much, and it's definitely hanging on stronger than it did originally. So just a little point there for you. And number two, I normally have 12-inch by half-inch Velcro straps on hand. I just don't have them with me right now, but maybe that's a good thing. I can show you another quick, cheap way to do it. I have these bulk garden twist ties here with me. Normally I would slide the half-inch Velcro into this little slot here, but in this case we're just going to use the cheap little twist ties. I'm just going to get that one ready. And same on number one. Just slip it through the little slot there. And we're good. So as far as placement on this vehicle, I'm just going to use the negative cable I have coming off the battery here. Set her in place. And we'll just use the cable itself to secure it. Don't need to go crazy, you just want to hold it so it doesn't fall off. And that feels good enough for me. And for number two, I guess we'll just go on to the air conditioning line here. Slip her on there. Run the twist tie right through the hose itself. And just snug her up. And I think we can call that good. Something I forgot to mention when I was running through the kit. Each transmitter has a built-in magnet on the face. The magnets are reasonably strong, they're not too bad, but I don't count on them. I never have, I never will. Especially when you're on a driving test, you always want to strap these things in place so you don't lose them or damage them. Maybe in a garage situation, the vehicle's stationary, it's probably okay to use them in certain situations. But other than that, it's not worth the gamble. You don't want to lose these or damage them. They're not cheap, and especially the older ones, you can't get these anymore. So keep that in mind. Next, you want to plug the transmitters into the cables. There's number two. And there's number one. Everything feels sturdy. Now, before we lock everything up here and go for the test drive, I'm just going to show you on the transmitters. On the top, there's a little switch here. When you turn it on, the little light turns red to let you know it's transmitting. So before we move into the vehicle with the receiver, I'll make sure the power is on both of those. Okay, we're about to head out for the road test. I've got both transmitters powered on. Each one is hooked up to the steering rack bolts, one on each bolt, of course. So everything under the hood is ready to go. But before we head out, I'm going to give you a quick rundown on the receiver so you know what we're going to be looking at during the test. To start, you have the on-off volume knob. You've got a standard 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. Along the bottom, you have a row of LED lights. These LED signal indicators correspond with the amount of volume coming in through the system. So if you find a clunk, you're going to see the LED spike to a certain point. If it finds a rattle that you're looking for, usually these LEDs find a little sweet spot and they bounce around in a certain area to let you know that there's a rattle. And if you're listening to with the headphones or the speaker, preferably headphones, you can hear it. It stands out pretty well. They work pretty good. Along the top, you have a row of 6 buttons. These channel select buttons correspond to each individual transmitter. You cannot listen to all of them at the same time. You have to select which one you want to listen to as you're going along, one at a time. So we'll leave it at that for now, and we'll move on to the test. Okay, I'm about to head out for the road test, but one more quick little side note. Originally, we had the driver's side hooked up to transmitter 1, and we had the passenger side hooked up to transmitter number 2. I was getting too much interference on the second transmitter, so I've swapped 2 for number 6. So we are now number 6, passenger side. Driver's side is transmitter number 1. So I have a little route planned out with a couple of speed bumps and some rough areas in a road, which should be just fine for the test. Hopefully the traffic isn't too bad. It's rush hour right now, but it should work out okay. I don't anticipate any problems. So I'm going to turn this unit on. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. Fire the engine up. I expect to see a little engine noise coming through. So we'll see. Yeah, a little bit. Try number. Give it a little gas. Definitely picking it up. I was expecting a little engine noise, but not quite that much. So that's telling me that the bushings are maybe worn out more than I figured. So I'm just going to start with transmitter 1. We'll head out. As I'm backing out of the driveway, there's a bit of a curb that I need to jump over here to get onto the road. So we might even see a little action on the LEDs just from that. Here it is. This is a little bit of a rough road. Definitely picking it up. I'm just coasting right now. Yeah, it's finding all that pretty easily. Now you might even be able to hear the clunking and rattling through the microphone. I can hear it clear as day as I'm driving along here. Minor little bumps we're hitting here, and I can see it registering on the LEDs. Coming up to a stop. Should quieten down. Yep. Okay, heading out. Here's the first little speed bump. Clearly picked that up. I'll stick with the driver's side for now on channel 1. Here's another speed bump now. Clearly picking that up. Now this road that I'm on now is not too bad, not the smoothest, but there's a couple of little manhole covers we're going to hit shortly. Here's one now. Obviously picking that up. That was very minor. I can see a fair bit of road noise on the LEDs. Coming up to a stop, and it should quieten down pretty good. Yeah, I'll check channel 2. Also quiet. Go back to channel 1, accelerating. It's clear. We're getting lots of road noise on 1. I'm going to switch to channel 6, passenger side. Tons of road noise. Okay, I'm thinking passenger side is much worse than the driver's side. We probably have quite a bit of metal on the passenger side. Only doing about 20 kilometers an hour right now. Manhole cover. Picked that up, I believe. Another little bump. A little bit of traffic here. Coasting at about 5 kilometers an hour, coming to a stop. Okay, there's a real sharp bump coming up here. This road's pretty rough. We should see some action here. Seems to be picking it all up. A real sharp bump coming up right here. That one's pretty obvious. Road's still pretty rough. Go back to driver's side for a moment. Coming to a stop. Accelerating. I have 2 speed bumps coming up shortly. I'm going to stay on channel 1 driver's side for the first 2, then we'll switch over to channel 6 passenger side. Speed bump now. Clearly picked that up. Another speed bump coming up now. Clear as day. I'll switch to channel 6 passenger side. Seems to have a little more road noise, which is a little surprising to me. Here's a speed bump now. Clearly got that. Quite a bit of road noise. I'm just coasting here over the speed bump coming up now. Well, that seems pretty obvious. Both bushings are shot. Coming into home base here. See what she finds. Definitely getting lots of road noise here. I'm doing 25 kilometers per hour. Seems to be picking up all the bumps. I'll go back to driver's side, channel 1 for a moment. Definitely catching all the road noise. Okay, I'm pulling into the driveway here. I have a little curve I need to drive over to get in. We'll see how that acts. Clearly got that. Okay, that pretty much does it. I think the test went quite well. I think it's pretty obvious that the bushings are shot, so the test showed the unit in action. It worked pretty well. I hope this video was able to help somebody out there that might be considering buying one of these kits one day, or at the very least, somebody found it even slightly entertaining. But in any case, thanks for watching. Maybe catch you on the next video.